Hello everybody, welcome to Sunday Jamz with just Shak and Sam today.
Hello.
We are reviewing the new the first Harry Styles. The debut
Yes.
Harry Styles record. Former boy band international sensation
Heartthrob boy.
Harry Styles from One Direction, who are one of the biggest artists ever, I think.
Yeah, probably.
And we had Zayn, he had his solo project, and now we have Harry going a very different way with his solo project. So let's get into it and let's jam. So, he released Sign of the Times, which is his first single a while ago now. And I think everyone obviously noticed that the music was a bit of a surprise. Like, it wasn't what people were expecting, I guess, when you think about One Direction's kind of music and you think about the music Zayn went on to do. Harry Styles is really just... It's kind of not in dialogue with any of that at all. In a sense, he's totally gone his own way with this project. He's just thought, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. Like, it's not One Direction, so it's nothing like One Direction. It's not teen pop. It's not boy band pop. It's nothing like that. I liked Sign of the Times when I heard it. It actually grew on me the more I listened to it, the more I kind of enjoyed it.
I felt more or less the same, actually. It wasn't until we were actually going to do the review that I actually kind of sat down and listened to the track, but I was surprised actually at the difference in what I expected. So you've already covered the One Direction kind of went for a kind of, for lack of better description, this kind of pre-packaged pop boy band style sound, whereas with Sign of the Times we got a kind of Elton John piano rock, just grand sounding thing.
Right, yeah, and very much piano rock for sure.
Yeah, just very much a big surprise.
Yeah. It was very much a arena piano, like you say, piano rock. Super duper throwback, and this whole album, as we'll get into more later, but obviously this whole album is super throwback. Like it is just throwback all the way through. What I found interesting about this album, though, when I came to listen to the album, I was thinking maybe it's all going to be a bit like Sign of the Times. Maybe it's going to be all that kind of epic rocky kind of thing. But I feel like what Harry Styles tried to do here was start a dialogue with lots of different types of rock music from the past. Because I feel like songs like Carolina feels very Beatles.
Yeah.
But then songs like Only Angel feels like Guns N' Roses type rock. Songs like Ever Since New York and From the Dining Table, they feel like folky, kind of like Rubber Soul, Norwegian Wood type vibes I got from those kind of songs.
Yeah.
Those very folk, again, kind of Beatles, but very folky Beatles rather than
experimental Beatles.
Yeah, or pop rocky Beatles or anything like that.
Beatles.
The Beatles.
Yeah.
I think he tried to kind of test out the waters with a few different kinds of rock, and in that sense I found the variation kind of and also Meet Me in the Hallway, I don't know about you, but I got almost alt rocky grungy feelings. Not in the chorus was very kind of like soaring and rocky, but I don't know, I think it might have been just the way he delivered the vocals in the verses, and it was quite sad and like quite I don't know, it just had that kind of subtle melancholia.
I didn't necessarily get grunge vibes. I certainly got kind of Beach Boy vibes. There's a particular track on Pet Sounds. Forget the name now, but I think it's also applicable to the Beatles as well. They're kind of sadder tracks where we had these kind of on those two artists we had a group of voices. Creating this effect, but on this it's just Harry's reverb vocals. And I really liked the vocal delivery on this track, and its simple construction again gave me more vibes of the kind of 60s pop Beatles and Beach Boys style. And I think one of the reasons that I like this track so much is that it is at the beginning of the album. I was kind of like you, expecting something like Sign of the Times, and I'm hit with this really just weird, sad tale with this echoey, watery vocal as well.
Yeah, I think it's that echoey, watery vocal that gave me the kind of, I don't know, grungy kind of Nirvana-y vibes.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons that this track also works really well, again, I was surprised by the kind of simple musical construction of this song. So with Sign of the Times, again, we had this huge burst in the chorus, but here it's quite kind of toned down, very subtle, very simple in its construction of just guitar, bass, and drums that are all quite quiet, attempted to create this kind of fragile feeling or tone, you know, which really suits the lyrical content of the track, of this person going through a miscommunication with their partner and feeling as though nothing but their connection with their partner will subdue their turmoil.
Yeah, this album definitely doesn't shy away from getting very vulnerable and stuff like that. Like especially the opening track and the closing track, the kind of two major points of the album. They both feel very like the closing track has those really close vocals that sound really soft and intimate. And on both of them, you have this nice double tracking of the vocals. Like on "Meet Me in the Hallway," you have like a high vocal, and then you have kind of like a low bassy vocal as well, which I thought was quite a clever way. It's very carefully produced. This album, it's very carefully produced. Like it's super, you expect it. It's Harry Styles. He's just come from One Direction. He's not going to go into some kind of lo-fi muddy production. I think overproduction was something I could expect from the album. Overall, I do like this album. Like I thought this album was pretty good, and the thing about it is I've read like odd comments on like boards about what people think about this album, and I can kind of see the flaws they're picking out, and I can kind of agree with them in a sense. I can see the kind of quote unquote objective problems with this album.
Right.
I do think it's a bit overproduced, and I do think it's a bit too throwback in the sense that it feels like he hasn't really got any ideas that are kind of pushing the music in any way.
Right, I totally agree there. That's the kind of feeling that I walked away from the album with, without getting too much into the details of what I think overall of this album. It just felt like Harry was looking for a place to experiment, and he looked back at what had been done before, and it's almost like this is a cover album, but in the sense that he's covering the various styles of music that came before him rather than specific tracks.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm happy to say, as much as I enjoy this album, I'm happy to say that it is totally like unoriginal. Like there really is not much, if any, originality going on here. I couldn't really point to a play. The only thing I think is original is the fact that he's taken lots of different styles of old, dad rock kind of vibes and put them all in an album, but it's not one kind of uniform style of that old rock. It's kind of like he has The Only Angel, he has the Meet Me in the Hallway, he has the Sign of the Times. They're all kind of different dimensions and different angles to approach this, kind of 70s, 80s rock music. I think this album starts really, really strong. Like the first three tracks are all highlights for me.
Right.
So Meet Me in the Hallway, Sign of the Times, and Carolina. And I think they're really good at showing different sides to the album,
Okay.
And also really good at showing his vocal versatility. I think that's all over this album, how versatile his vocals can be. Because in like Sign of the Times, you have the really soft falsetto running from the bullet thing. But then in both Meet Me in the Hallway and Sign of the Times, the chorus, you have very kind of bellowing, kind of soaring vocals. You have really really well-crafted vocal melodies also on Carolina, and that the bit when he does Feel So Good is a very like strong, powerful kind of delivery. I don't know. I think one thing that makes this album, I don't know. I'd say one thing that makes this album unique in a sense is Harry Styles' voice, but then in another sense, it feels like it's a very like classically trained like professional voice in a sense. So
right,
I can see both sides of why you might say the voice is original, but in a sense it's not.
I think the problem with this album, in terms of his voice, is that while he does have, as you've said, a versatile, kind of classically trained voice, what he's actually doing with his voice here isn't necessarily interesting.
Yeah.
Like, we've heard these kind of uses of voice before, and that's when you basically are relying on the catchiness of the hooks or the atmosphere that gets created in these tracks. So, and I think on Meet Me in the Hallway and Sign of the Times, both the lyrics and the atmosphere of the tracks, you know, kind of helped carry Harry's lack of distinction in terms of his vocal performance. But Carolina, I can't agree, is a strong track.
Really?
Personally, I think it's decent, and it's not that it's bad. It's the fact that its quality just isn't up to the standard of the preceding two tracks. And my main issue with it is the chorus. I don't find it catchy or engaging. You know, I think it's just lazy, really. The rest of the track's fine. It kind of reminded me of early Beatles. Maybe, like,
I think this song gave me the biggest Beatles vibes.
Maybe Help era, maybe just before the Help era. Like, I thought it was a decent pop rock track, but there wasn't anything that really hooked me here. I thought the following track, Two Ghosts, was much better. Personally.
Really, I like Two Ghosts as well. I thought the kind of bulk of the riffs in Two Ghosts were a bit more derivative and a bit less interesting. I mean, I really liked the whole. It had a kind of psychedelic-y angle to it, and that was kind of shadowed by his like walls of high falsetto vocals. I mean, and this was kind of where the folkiness started in Two Ghosts, and it kind of carried on in Sweet Creature and Ever Since New York and From the Dining Table.
Yeah.
So I like that because I like the folky angle on this album. But yeah, I do really like the way the melodies in the verses specifically are crafted in Carolina. They feel really John Lennon, Paul McCartney type thing, and not in a...
Yeah, I can see what you mean there.
Yeah, I don't mean that in terms of to give him the same credit as Lennon and McCartney. I mean more of like him worshipping that kind of writing style and the kind of patterns of vocals that they would write, I think.
I think this just highlights what we were talking about in this album. Again, track to track, feels like he's looking at his peers that came before him, and it's like, okay, I'm going to do something in the style of that, but I'm not necessarily going to bring it forward in any way. I'm just going to do it competently.
Yeah, I think he's achieved a kind of weird paradox here where it's like he's tried to make his own voice away from One Direction, but in doing that he's kind of not got a voice at all in a sense, which is...
And this kind of worship of not necessarily the folk elements, because like you, I like the folk angle on this album. I think it's the stronger album. It's when we start talking about some of the later tracks on the album, I think that's where I'm going to start to have a problem.
Really? Okay, that's interesting because some of the later tracks are some of my favourite tracks. But
okay.
So yeah, I'd say carrying on with my highlights. Another highlight, which interestingly to me seems to be a more contentious highlight, but I thought this would be like everyone's highlight, was Ever Since New York.
Right. Okay.
I love the natural primal drums here. Like, it feels really earthy, and there's like barely any hi-hats or cymbals, so it has that kind of vibe to it. I think the chorus is like the catchiest chorus here, probably, or one of them, and it's quite huge as well. And I also really like the layers of guitars. Like, you have kind of like a jangly, jingly, folky guitar, but then you also have kind of like a subtle electric rock guitar that kind of blemishes it out a bit. And yeah, I just thought it is a simple song, but I really like the atmosphere of this song, and I really like the chorus of this song, and I don't know, I just enjoy it. Like, this is the thing, it's not like I can throw accolades at it. It's not like I can say innovative or wow, it was so... I just felt like it hit what it was trying to hit right, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's all a song needs to be sometimes. But in terms of Ever Since New York, for me personally, to talk about where it fits in the context of the album,
right?
This was so welcome in terms of tone and production for me, because after hearing Kiwi, my God, I was
Kiwi is my biggest low light. Like, I really hate Kiwi, and the thing about Kiwi, I don't hate it, it's just my weakest song. The thing about Kiwi is that I appreciate that Harry Styles has been going for these retro rock sounds, but then in Kiwi, it sounds like he's tried to go for a contemporary rock sound out of nowhere. Like, it sounds.
See,
like
I didn't even think it was contemporary. I thought it was like Bryan Adams worship, like 90s
to me,
mom rock, cock rock.
For me, it sounded like Arctic Monkeys type shit. Like, he has this really overly English accent, and I feel like it just came out of nowhere on the album, and it feels really like cringy and forced, because it's like, you know, when you listen to an Arctic Monkeys album, it's on every song because that's just how Alex Turner sings. But here it's just like, well, what are you doing? Like, you weren't doing this the last like 6 tracks or however many tracks it was. So
it's just an extremely obnoxious and irritating song. Like the hook itself, "I'm having your baby, it's none of your business," is just so overblown and just just no. You know, it's the kind of shit you expect to come out of, again, like Bryan Adams, 30-year-old singer-songwriters who rely primarily on their sex appeal, not 23-year-olds who should be doing like interesting shit with their music.
Right, yeah. And this is the thing, like, you know, it's kind of funny that Harry Styles, a young guy, is making like, you know, rock to appeal to like 40-year-olds or something.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like ridiculous when you sit back and think about what he's doing here, which in a sense has a charm to it, because it's like, he's kind of got balls in doing this. I don't know. This is just like a weird contradiction with this album. You know, like, I feel like I want to praise him for doing something so not what we'd expect, but in another sense, it's like, but it's so unoriginal that it's like, I don't know whether that praise should be for it's not innovation, but is it taken? I don't know. You know. And my other low light, I don't really like Woman.
No, I don't like Woman at all.
No, I think okay, one thing I hate about Woman, I hate it so much, and there's a and it's a problem with the album as well.
Okay.
Is that stupid fucking Netflix line that it starts with?
Oh man,
it's so insanely cringy, and it's not just the cringe that makes it annoying. It's the fact that I've spent the whole of this album in the fucking past, and then you talk about Netflix, and it's like, hold on, why have you like dragged me into the present day? Like, you know, even some of the lyrics on these songs, when he talks about on Only Angel, he says, "Couldn't take her home to mother in a skirt that short." That line is like so old, you know, like no one would say that in 2017, right? No mother would give a fuck about a short skirt. Well, some mothers would, but you know what I mean. That line sounds like an old 60s, 70s line. So to go like specifically to your issue with the use of Netflix, it really irritates me when artists use the names of brands which like might be completely irrelevant in years' time. So Steven Wilson recently committed this sacrilege in his new track Pariah, where he says he's tired of Facebook. And I'm just like, please, man, please. Oh, so cringe. The only time it ever worked and ever will is Where My Domino's At. That's the that's the only pass for a brand I'll ever give.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, don't do it. And especially not when you're trying to build an atmosphere of like being in the 70s. Then you say, can we just find some rom-coms on Netflix?
It's like you go from this like contemporary like thing to this kind of old school sexy rock vibe.
Yeah.
And again, the problem of all the instruments and Harry act in the way that you'd expect someone to act on a typical kind of sexy rock track.
Right.
But there's nothing else. And something that really bugs me is that this track is about like Harry trying to talk to his ex-lover, and he's like, "Oh, I wish I was where he was." So basically, this is Harry's song for cucks. Basically. And
rip.
Again, like similar to Ever Since New York, which I didn't get to say, I think the chorus in this and Ever Since New York is really weak, but more so here on Woman. On Woman, man. Just adding la 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 to
I hate the la la la. It's so tacky. It sounds so
like
horrible.
Every other line of just single word chorus woman. It doesn't somehow make it more memorable or engaging or just anything positive. It's just shit. It's just not well written.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of my the only thing I like in this song. There's like there's a riff in the bridge that I like. It's a cool riff.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, this is a low light for me as well. But I can't believe you think the chorus to Ever Since New York is one of the weakest. Like, I thought it was so, like, such a punch. Like, that whole, tell me something I don't know. I don't know.
It was alright. Like, I liked his delivery on it, but again, I didn't think that it was it resonated with me, per se. The verses are kind of pretty standard. Like, you get this kind of confused lover wandering the streets, like, not sure about how to fix whatever is troubling the relationship that they're having. But again, I felt the chorus was kind of half written, and I personally thought it was the most forgettable track on the album. Not in the sense that it was forgettably bad or anything, but just that it didn't give me anything that I necessarily thought, oh, that was bad, or that was good. It's like, it was alright.
Yeah, I guess. There was just a charm to a lot of these songs that just resonated with me, I suppose. Like, I really, my last highlight is the last song from the dining table, and I just really like the depth of the vocals, and I like I say, there's the kind of intimate closeness, and you can hear like the guitar buzz, you know, the slight mistakes in playing to kind of to highlight the naturalness. And
yeah, I did love how kind of close and natural this whole track sounded. It was like I could kind of almost picture Harry Styles kind of whispering in my ear almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then the strings come in at the end, and not only is it the end of the song, it's the end of the album, so it's kind of like a nice end. I don't know. I thought this was a good closer, and I'm not sure about the whole comfortable silence is so overrated. Again, the word overrated feels kind of like a modern word. I don't know what it is about that word, but someone saying something like comfortable silence is so overrated, that sounds like something a millennial would say. Like, it doesn't sound like, again, it kind of takes me out of the vibe, and I feel like he should have, same with the Netflix thing, he should have crafted the lyrics to kind of at least suit the vibe. But I don't think it's a big problem. It's not at all, because it's still a highlight.
Well,
so
this is again where we're going to kind of disagree. In that I liked the comfortable silence is so overrated, and even my phone misses your call, by the way.
That was a clever line, to be fair.
Yeah,
that was clever.
I thought that was. But in terms of the violins that you highlighted, I personally thought that detracted from the song to a certain extent.
I thought much.
Yeah, I thought it kind of created this kind of grandiose vibe the song didn't necessarily need, and it succeeded best when it was close, when it was intimate. But again, like you talking about the comfortable silence line, it's not a huge enough detraction for me to go, that was bad. Like, it was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the only track we haven't talked about is Sweet Creature.
Right, yeah. I like this song. It was a single, but I didn't hear the single. Like, I didn't hear it before I heard it in context with the album. Again, it's another very folky song. I think the depth of the vocals here is really noticeable. There's lots of different effects. There's lots of different tones and registers. Creates a really dense kind of vocal landscape. Again, it's kind of anchored by how obviously derivative it is. But I think it has a slightly more charming tone than Two Ghosts for me.
Yeah, I thought this was probably the most kind of charming track on the album. You know, it's a kind of ode to some potential love interest. It was around this kind of point in the album that I thought that it was going to be kind of a folk pop ballady album, and I was like, oh, okay. And then obviously we got into Only Angel and Kiwi, and things fell apart.
Only Angel was crazy. Like, Only Angel, I don't know how I feel about Only Angel, because it was such a like Kiwi was just bad, but I don't feel like Only Angel was bad. It was very bold, and it was like very like, I mean, I feel like I haven't heard that sound in so long. Or it's not even the kind of sound people usually would want to revive. That kind of like fucking. What's that band that made that fucking Cherry Pie song?
Oh, she's my cherry pie.
Yeah. It felt like that.
Yeah, I don't know what the band is, but yeah.
Warrant, and like I said before, Guns N' Roses. You know, it feels like this really dead genre.
Right, the kind of like 90s glam rock.
Yeah, like 80s, late 80s, early 90s, like super over the top, over sexualized, power glam rock type thing, and it feels like this super dead genre that he's just like brought back. And I was like, oh, okay, he's fucking bringing that back. Okay, like that was
yeah. I think the thing that annoys me most about the track is that it starts with this kind of grand organ sound, like we're kind of ascending up to heaven or whatever, and with some ethereal sounding voices layered over the top of it. I was like, oh, we're going to get a kind of interesting track here. And then you get this kind of, the way that we've just described it now, this like big sounding guitar, and it just like, oh, okay, that's where we're going. I wasn't expecting that, and I'm not necessarily happy that that's the direction we're going. But it's better than Kiwi.
Definitely better than Kiwi. I wouldn't call it a low light, but I wouldn't call it a highlight either. It was interesting.
And like one of the biggest detractions on this song for me is its length. Like, it's 5 minutes long. I don't think it does enough in terms of variation to really warrant being this long. And the woohoos get really grating after a while.
Again, it's such a dated thing. But I don't know. The length didn't bother me personally. I didn't really notice, but that's fair. So yeah, to wrap up, if someone came up to me and said, "I don't think this album is very good. I don't really like this album," I would be like, "That's fair enough. Like, I can see why people wouldn't like this album." But some things I would defend Harry Styles on. Some people are saying he's just being totally inauthentic. He's just kind of stealing this kind of old music to just kind of create a niche for himself. I think it's more likely that he's just making an ode to his influences, and that he just wanted to make an album that he would want to listen to. That's what it feels like to me. I don't think to call him fake and inauthentic and all of this is just fake, it's all a front. I think that's just people's bias against One Direction kicking in when they say stuff like that.
I totally agree. This feels like a genuine effort to kind of celebrate the music that he has liked in his time of growing up. There's nothing disingenuous about this album.
Not to me, anyway. I mean, obviously we'll never know what was in his head, but to me, I feel that's uncharitable kind of interpretation of the work. And also people have been, saying he's like a Alex Turner wannabe, he's an Arctic Monkeys wannabe. I saw a couple of people saying that. And at the end of the day, like, personally, I'm not a big fan of Arctic Monkeys. I like a few songs, but I'm not a big fan. So I enjoyed this more than Arctic Monkeys. I don't care if Arctic Monkeys is more original. And that kind of brings me to my final point, which is that fair enough, there are problems with this album. Fair enough, I can understand if you don't like this album, if you think this album's too derivative, too boring, whatever. But personally, all I can say is I enjoyed quite a lot of these songs. I found myself returning to quite a lot of these songs. And I just like this album. I enjoy it. I have a lot of highlights, Meet Me in the Hallway, Sign of the Times, Carolina, Two Ghosts and Sweet Creature. I like them both. They're not quite highlights, but I do like them both quite a bit. So they're like on the border of highlights. And then Ever Since New York, From the Dining Table. So I mean that's like basically half the album are highlights, and I only really have one low light, which is Kiwi. So and Kind of Woman. So I have two low lights, half the album highlights. I like it, man. I think it's a good album. I can totally understand criticisms. I wouldn't try and tell someone, look, you need to listen to Harry Styles' new album. This is a fucking amazing album. I would just say, look, I like this shit. That's it. Really.
Yeah, I personally feel that this is a step above the pop records Harry was putting out as a member of One Direction. But that, again, doesn't necessarily mean that it's like of a high quality amongst his other singer-songwriter peers, both past and present. I personally think the album is really inconsistent in its quality. There's some quite good highlights, some pretty low lights, and then there's a lot of kind of in between. And it really falls apart in its second half for me compared to its first. In terms of highlights, again, Meet Me in the Hallway, Sign of the Times, Two Ghosts, and the last track of the album.
Table, yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Fair
All
enough.
really good tracks in my opinion. Not even just for Harry Styles, but just good tracks in general.
Yeah.
And low lights, Kiwi and Woman, man.
Same. No. Same. But yeah. So yeah, my overall score would be for me, I'd say I'd give it like a low 7. Like I enjoyed this; it was enjoyable, and That's enough for a 7 for me. If I enjoy the album, if I got a bunch of tracks I want to come back to, that's enough for me to give something a 7. You know, I'm not that like, you know, oh, this wasn't innovative enough. You know, like I enjoyed it, so yeah, it's a 7.
Yeah, for me, it's a middling 6. You know, there was some good here, there was some bad here. There's nothing that's really screaming for me to return to it, but there's stuff here which I, you know, might think, oh, I haven't heard that in a while, I'll pop that on. That was nice. But yeah, it's certainly made me interested in what his next project will be, whether this is a case of him kind of testing the waters with being a solo singer-songwriter, and whether we'll see a kind of more defined Harry Styles on the next album.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes from this for sure. Thank you everybody for listening. If you guys did listen to Harry Styles, what did you guys think of it? Please let us know in the comments. If you like the album, support Harry and buy it.
Stream it.
Or stream it. Or both, if you're feeling generous. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and we will see you for the next whatever the fuck we do next. Goodbye.
Bye.